a Syrian-American rapper and poet living in Los Angeles. Known for his unique blend of hip-hop and Arabic poetry, he's been able to carve a distinct path for himself as a thoughtful entertainer and as an activist. Raised in the Washington, D.C. area by Syrian parents, he studied architecture at the University of Virginia. This unique perspective enables him to speak to a multitude of relevant issues and diverse global audiences. Omar has lectured at a number of prestigious academic institutions, collaborated with major museums and cultural organizations, and helped raise millions of dollars for various humanitarian relief groups. Offendum is currently serving as a Kennedy Center Citizen Artist Fellow for 2018-2019. Offendum is also my uncle. It's my go-to statement in Two Truths That a Lie to say that my uncle is a famous Syrian-American Muslim hip-hop star, but in fact he is. Omar has been an important part of my life since I was born. Growing up, I've learned a lot from the perspective he brings to my family, and he continues to inspire me. I'm very proud to be introducing him to all of you today. Please join me in welcoming Omar Offendum to Lick-Wilmerding.
I want to say it is a pleasure to be here, it is an honor to be here, and most definitely in my estimation these days doing this kind of work feels like a responsibility to be here. Why do I say that? I say it's a pleasure because I always love getting the opportunity to perform in the Bay Area. If you love living up here, make some noise. Especially knowing that my niece goes to school here and is surrounded by such an incredible energy, inspiring students, inspiring faculty. This means the world to me, so thank you. Thank you. And it's a responsibility to be here, not just because I'm Syrian, Arab, Muslim, American, or any of those things, but because I'm a human being who believes in equality and justice for all people, full stop. That's what drives me in my work, and I'm really, really humbled that I get the chance to share some of it with you all today. Now, today is Indigenous Peoples Day, and I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that we are all indebted to the original caretakers of this land who are here, whose ancestral spirits still surround us, from the Chumash and the Tongva all the way down where I live in Southern California, up to the Shasta and all the other nations and tribes that lived in this land that we now call California. In this part of the country in particular, as many of you probably know, there was this thing called the gold rush that brought a lot of people out here. But what a lot of people also don't know was that killing natives here got people a lot more money than any of that gold did. And so it is important for us to acknowledge that, and to acknowledge the bloodshed, the genocide that made it possible for us to live the privileged lives that we live here today. Now, a lot of my work is rooted in the fact that I have ties to Syria, very strong ties to Syria, which is, as you all know, a very deep and rich historical place that is very much the birthplace of civilization, of languages, of alphabets, musical notations, of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But it is also the source, the epicenter of the largest humanitarian crisis and refugee crisis this world has seen. Millions upon millions of people have been displaced, over half the population of Syria, in fact. Hundreds of thousands of people have passed away, hundreds of thousands of people have disappeared or imprisoned. And for someone like me growing up in the Washington, D.C. area, as Molly mentioned, at the time that I did, when I would tell somebody I was from Syria, I would just get a blank stare or some really lame joke about breakfast cereal. But nowadays, it seems like I can't even turn on the radio without hearing about it, or, get into an Uber or a Lyft or a cab, and somebody asks me where I'm from, and all of a sudden find myself, entering some really dark, depressing conversation. I wanted to take a moment to remind all of you through this work and through this music that while it is important to highlight these issues, it's also important to note, again, like I said, that it is the birthplace of so much of what we know to be culture, and things that I'm very proud of. So, when I studied architecture at the University of Virginia, I had the opportunity to intern at the Historic Renovation Committee in the old city of Damascus. And some people say that Damascus is one of the longest continuously inhabited cities on planet Earth. Given that hip-hop is this urban culture, more specifically the street culture, I thought it was pretty cool to be able to represent one of the oldest urban and street experiences in the world. And there's one street in particular that's referenced in the Bible. It's where St. Paul got his sight back on the road to Damascus. It's what many say is probably the oldest street in Damascus. The Romans called it Via Recta, and it is in fact Straight Street, or the street called Straight. And I wrote a poem inspired by my time there and the conversations that I had with people walking up and down those streets that I wanted to share with you all to open up this event. I took a stroll down a street called Straight. Met a medicine man about a third of the way. Predecessor to the pusher man with something to say about an apple a day keeping the sickness away. I valued his advice at face at first, till he enlightened me to how precisely nature works, giving us citrus fruits in wintertime for vitamin C. Just met each other, but I'm already invited for tea. SubhanAllah, his favorite habit, he and I turn out to be related. A small world's even smaller when you're Arab, ain't it? Made it a point to soak in all his information about regenerative meditations and preventative medication like a modern Ibn Sina with a pretty calm demeanor and a remedy for everything that plagued the Arab nations. Yet when asked how to cope with our impossible fate, he just said, follow the middle path to a street called Straight. And so I took a stroll down a street called Straight. Met a spiritual teacher about 2/3 of the way. Predecessor to the preacher man with something to say about a prayer a day keeping the Satans at bay. He spoke of angels on our shoulders and the angles of our solar, systematic self-destruction, metaphysical corruption with a danger to our polar ice caps. So it's out of our control and in the hands of our beholder. We philosophized for over 20 minutes like that. Taught me lessons, any questions he would give them right back, said the answers were within us, and I didn't like that, but I realized later why he did it like that. See, I had so much more to learn. The clock was ticking, couldn't stall, committed his words to memory, his wisdom was enthralling, yet when asking him, what was the most important to recall? He just said, follow the middle path, Straight Street, and that is all. And so I took a stroll down a street called Straight. Met a carpenter hard at work at the end of the way. Predecessor to the architect with something to say about not doing tomorrow what should be finished. See, he manipulated wood and metal till it followed function, building all through Via Recta and Cardo Maximus Junction. Something told me he was wise beyond his years. I had a feeling from the way that he'd exposed the beams and ornamented ceilings with an ambidextrous half, nonchalantly jest and laugh, saying that my Western education made it hard to grasp his connections to the past, deep-rooted in his craft, but was more than willing to share with me these tools he knew I lacked, and for that I would be grateful. Learning how to build the monumental for the playful and the humble for the faithful. Yet when asked of how we'd stack against our impossible odds, he just said, follow the middle path, Straight Street to the gods. Speaking of Damascus, I got a question, y'all. Listen. So if I ask you what's Damascus like, can you tell me that it's like a glimpse into the afterlife? Said if I ask you what's Damascus like, say it's a glimpse into the... That's what I tell them when they ask me what's Damascus like. I tell them that it's like a glimpse into the hellish heaven, heavenly hell, when relishing in poetic embellishments memory fails. See, this is Damascus. And this is a glass of spirit comfort I love, but I'm aware of the fact that certain kinds of love can slaughter you when they're wrapped. I'm a Damascene bee and dissect me into halves and have not. But grapes and apples fall in your path, open my veins with scalpels. Your ancestral chance of heart transplants can cure some of the passionate. Why does mine stay torn in half? Then minarets crying tears of absence, like trees are so speak. Years have passed them, you can hear them asking for civil rights to live amongst tears of jasmine as house cats take naps relaxing. This is Damascus. And what the singer Amanda Manzanero sings so beautifully is that it's the saddest thing in this whole world. And this is how I feel for you, only for you. So, if I ask you what's Damascus like, can you tell me that it's like a glimpse into the afterlife? That's right. Said if they ask you what's Damascus like, say it's a glimpse into the afterlife. That's what I tell them when they ask me what's Damascus like. I tell them that it's like a glimpse into the afterlife. A hellish heaven, heavenly hell, when relishing in poetic embellishments memory fails. Coffee grinders crackling, childhood reminders back when how could I forget when my reaction to cardamom strong fragrance yet and still finds attraction. As proud fathers wait for a sweet daughter's face, I'm asking my roots, heart, and language I hear. How am I supposed to make myself any more clear? Is clarification necessary with love so dear? So much so, there was no fear. How many Damascene bracelets were sold for this poetry here? Apologizing to the willow, wondering if my little siblings can hear. My parts been scattered cross coast for years. lanterns on horizons, fluffing Saturnizing voices, hopes to see it. Once again, it is the saddest thing in this world. And this is how I feel for you. Only for you. So, if I ask you what's Damascus like, you tell me that it's like a glimpse into the afterlife. Hallelujah. Said if they ask you what's Damascus like, say it's a glimpse into the. That's what I tell them when they ask me what's Damascus like. I tell them that it's like a glimpse into the afterlife. A hellish heaven, heavenly hell, when relishing in poetic embellishments memory fails. See, we're tossed around in shoreless oceans only to be hunted down by devils and demonic ghosts. Our battle garbage, rapid prose and rapid flows. It's apropos, and so no war is open to them. That's for show identity, Arabness resembling a widow. Though is there no festivus for the rest of us? History books can show what will remain of poetry's originality. If so, many a brown nose and liar gets to have complete control. How we gonna ever write a verse to spit and kill a still approach? I bore the burden of my words upon my back until I grieve what shall remain of poetry when it is finally relieved. The saddest thing in this world, my lady, is knowing that we were meant to be from the very start, but that might never be. So I think you know what he's saying by now. And I hope you remember what I'm about to ask you. Yeah? Yeah. If I ask you what's Damascus like, you tell me that it's like a glimpse into the afterlife. Yeah. So if I ask you what's Damascus like, say it's a glimpse into the afterlife. That's what I tell them when they ask me what's Damascus like. I tell them that it's like a glimpse into the afterlife. A hellish heaven, heavenly hell, when relishing in poetic embellishments memory fails. And that's like هذه دمشق وهذه الكأس والراح إني أحب وبعض الحب ذباح أنا الدمشقي لو شرحتم جسدي لسال منه عناقيد وتفاح ولو فتحتم شراييني بمديتكم سمعتم في دمي أصوات من راحوا زراعة القلب تشفي بعض من عشقوا وما لقلبي إذا أحببت جراح. Rest in peace, Nizar Qabbani. Those were words that were written by him over 25 years ago. And that song was in fact a translation of one of his most famous poems. It was called the Damascene poem, Al-Qasida Dimashqiyya. And it never ceases to amaze me how when poetry and music and art is created from an honest place, it can resonate far beyond the time and space that it was originally created in. Thinking of a master plan. Cause ain't nothing but the sweat on my mama's brow ever since we left Damascus, when nowhere to settle down, running like the river, couple babies in a basket, we get around. Tupac Shakur, who's got the cure to stop the furor of cops and war over hollow ground, when hearts were pure, the bombs were not. Who's got some more to drop and harm the flock? Manure you talk? Shit, holes that we coming from? Why you digging in the dirt that we running from? Black gold in the desert got them plundering. This ain't a jungle, but sometimes I'm left wondering how many more gotta die for you listen. Running out of breath, trying to catch your attention. Now ain't the time to go half on this mission. Give me liberty or death from this open air prison where it's too hot to fit in. No pot to piss in. Refugees, please, hands, knees, submission to the Most High. Crossing the seas, knowing most die. Praying that dry land close by. Why try? Unless we thought that it was safer than the places we escaped from. Head heavy like a bass drum. Going wherever wind takes us. Chasing that paper that you take for granted. Like a kitchen counter, and all the meals that you waste on it. We only wish that we could taste some. Must be nice, trust me, ice. Give us the chills when we face them. They kick us out and get a pay stub. Pyramid schemes of the Mason. But by the time the right folks finally ask, should I say something? The wrong ones done erased us. Chosen ones never chose this, tiptoeing on the precipice of indefinite exodus. The pharaohs want us hopeless, only concern is his own bliss. Chauvinist on that presidential pulpit, new story with an old twist. Too gory for these po kids, Lord please help us focus. Send us another brother Moses to replace him. Send us another brother Moses to replace him. Yeah. You can snap. Why not? Yeah. Look, I'm like the palm trees in LA, twice removed from Sham. But when I was growing up, nobody knew where I was from, bruh. I tell them that I'm Syrian, they stood there looking curious. Start speaking to me in Spanish, some would even speak in tongues. Ha, I wasn't offended, never am, couldn't have an agenda. Well aware the privileges my new blue passport rendered. Nose clean, no angel but no fiend. No playboy but no chum. No label could own me if only My friend, I am not what I seem. Seeming is but a garment I wear, a care-woven garment that protects me from thy questionings and thee from my negligence. The I in me, my friend, dwells in the house of silence, and therein it shall remain forevermore, unperceived, unapproachable. So don't only, I swear more, say I don't care more, but those who know me know that isn't me, so I'm here more, showing up for my fam, being present when I can, and recognizing it's a blessing to caress my mother's hand, or be given a microphone to address another man, and remind him I'm no lesser of a man. Damn, older I get, the more I come to comprehend that some of these rappers I might never understand. Oh well. My friend, thou art good, cautious, and wise. Nay, thou art perfect, and I too speak with thee wisely and cautiously. And yet I am mad, but I mask my madness, for I would be mad alone. My friend, thou art not my friend, but how shall I make thee understand? My path is not thy path, and yet together we walk, hand in hand. Hey. So those are actually the words of Gibran Khalil Gibran, a poet, a philosopher, an artist who lived in the United States of America over 100 years ago and was the third highest selling poet in human history. And Gibran Khalil Gibran also identified as a Syrian-American. He was technically from the country of Lebanon, but this was at a time when it was referred to as Greater Syria, before the borders were drawn with this shady Sykes-Picot agreement that many people who study Middle Eastern history will get to learn about, when French and British colonizers carved up the Middle East, as they did many other parts of the world, wreaking havoc on the social fabric and the understanding of what it meant to be from that part of the world for many decades to come. And it can certainly be stated that a lot of the problems we have today date back to the fact that those borders are just not natural. And so many of the things that we're seeing happening now with refugee populations crossing over might not have taken place in the same way had those shady agreements not gone down the way they did. So yeah, California. Hey, I see some people nodding off. I had to wake them up a little bit. That's right. I've been here since 2004. I'm an old man. Cali makes me feel young. It really does. Who's got that super California magic funky halitosis? Breathing on this mic for years, finally getting noticed, but barely getting started, brother. Other rappers bogus, fake guys, stating lies. Anything for showbiz when I hit the phonies though. Plotting with them snake eyes, acting like we're homies. We're more far apart than Drake guys. Watching Uma Thurman from the very last row. Kill Bill, skill, Quentin Tarantino's ass. Just how glorious this bastard is. Notoriously angelistic, master, ceremonious, funk, monk, melodious, the loneliest. In my own lane like Hove in the HOV. Tight bow, baby, control B. Born in the 80s, Janet Jackson couldn't control me. Sworn to a lady who's an actress and a control freak. Nah, not really, that just rhymes, we're just fine. Long as I bring that turkey bacon home on time, there is no beef. And no swine either. So goodbye, Felicia, and thank you, Juanita. Say la, 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 la. Come on. Yeah, I said there's no beef. And there's no swine either. So goodbye, Felicia, and shukran, Khadija. Say la, 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 la. Come on. Yeah, see, it's where the palm trees are given. Concrete jungle, calm breeze, hard living. Kicks on a power line, grapes on a sour vine, Jake's on a county line, all points bulletin. Silicon Valley, small chips, big checks. Silicon Valley, fake lips, fake. Hey, billboards selling pretty women, safe sex in casinos where the broke place bets. Look, this is for the Muslims and the mobsters, hipsters and the rosters. Pinoy and la raza, chumash to the Shasta. Calling Cali home, mi casas, they casa. But them spaghetti westerners and pastas. Left coast righteous, with or without wasta. Oughta be connects, that's what minimize the cost, bro. You trying to be a boss, stop listening to what the haters say, cause I'd rather be in California, where it's no beef. And there's no swine neither. So goodbye, Felicia, and thank you, Juanita. Say la, 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 la. Come on. Yeah, I said it's no beef, and it's no swine either. So goodbye, Felicia. Shukran, Khadija. Say la, 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 la. Come on. LA, lost and left alone. Little about late Arabs leaves a lad amused. Luxuries assumed, lavishly adorned. Limited appearances, living amidst lands annexed. Listening adherence led arbitrarily. Laws authoritarian, losing always, loving Allah's library, agrarians levied against lethal armies, liberating Assyrians, lyrically at least, amongst Levantines, Africans, legendary affluence, lashing at, legalized apartheid, laughing at, Ayahs acting like apes, lying about living arrangements, lounging at lakes, all linguistic ability lacking, a long-awaited land basking, alas, lackadaisical assassins, love acting, lame appropriations, loose associations, left asking, let art lead Adam where it's no beef and it's no swine either. So goodbye, Felicia, and thank you, Juanita. Say la 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 la. Come on. That's right. I said it's no beef and it's no swine either. So goodbye, Felicia. Shukran, Khadija. La 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 la. Come on. Make some noise for yourselves, yeah. And in an effort to increase the literacy of a lot of the whack MCs I'm often forced to call my peers, I've taken it upon myself to alphabetize the following verse. I'm going to go through the alphabet forwards, backwards, and forwards again. Are we ready? Alphabetic brothers can disseminate energy fluidly, guiding hereditary imagery, justice, kindness, lovely marriages, never of perimeters, question, regularly suspected. Terrorismist? Under Victory's watch, xenophobic young zealots yield Xerox worldviews, unintelligent televangelists so readily quoted, people often needing motivation, lost kids joke, it hurts, getting fingerprinted every day, discriminated, called barbaric, Arab by crusaders, desecrated, entering foreign gates, hesitantly immigrated, journeying kaleidoscopic languages, miseducated, naturalized, organized, prophesized, quadraphonic, record set, typed up, verse war, xylophonic yells, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus 10, alphabetic bars spit 16, that's it. You see, Adam had an apple, and Eve had an apple. Isaac had an apple, and Steve had an apple. The root of all evil fruit with which we all grapple. Shackled to our castles, cubicles and chapels. Gravity it baffles, leaving people speechless. How do we stay grounded when we're reaching for the sweetness? Lotteries and raffles, prizes at the Preakness. Can't afford the phone, but they got us with the features. Sour as the peaches, sweet bitter bleakness. Touch screen glittering, secrets in the cheapness. Planned obsolescence, sequence of a cheap blitz. Spotted in the matrix, why you gotta hate me for my helix? Needless, we gotta learn to beat this. Put it down, look around, bodies in a deep ditch, dropping like a leaflet in a bombed out Middle East street. It's too little, too late for treatment. We give and you take, come on, that isn't even. Actions and reactions, it's just something I believe in, like Allah in the weekend, and vibing to a beat and not caring about appearance if it's wisdom that you're speaking. Look, Adam had an apple, and Eve had an apple. Isaac had an apple. The root of all evil fruit with which we all grapple. Shackled to our castles, cubicles and chapels. Gravity it baffles, leaving people speechless. How do we stay grounded when we're reaching for this weakness? Lotteries and raffles, prizes at the Preakness. Can't afford the phone, but they got us, yeah, they got us with the features, boy. But yeah, if I could have your attention, this last one is really, really important to me. This one is real personal. And I just wanted to kind of put the context to this for y'all before we perform it. And I'll also need your help with this one as well. You've been doing a great job with the call and response, by the way. Much love to you. Thank you so much. This one is called Close My Eyes, and the subject of the song is essentially mortality and death. And I dedicate it to anybody who has lost a loved one. It's not an easy thing to go through, especially if you've had to deal with it at a young age. I was about 12 years old when my father passed away. And it was actually the very same year that we had finally become citizens here. And I know what it meant to him to kind of go through all the struggles that he went through for us to be able to plant roots here. You know, and I'm now a father as well, 2.5-year-old boy named Gibran, who is Molly's cousin, and is the cutest little Semitic, European, Arab, Asiatic, African-American baby boy you'll ever meet in your life. And, you know, I'm humbled. It's like my greatest role ever, the role of being a father. And I also, you know, think about my father often. So I dedicate this, again, to anybody who's lost a loved one. I'd love to get your help. La, 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 la. Yeah, I bet you thought that I'd forget. I'll admit I've often tried. Ever since the day you left, I've been feeling lost inside, waiting here with bated breath. Patiently I recollect, 1 foot in the grave, foolish step to take. Now wait a sec, I heard about it all before. Read it in the ancient text, messages delivered from the best of us to save the rest of us from grief, stress, and the weak chest, speechless. 1 tongue, 2 eardrums, so speak less. And yes, the meek blessed with inheriting this earth. But until then, I worry for children who perish first, carrying thirst, walking miles for polluted water, buried in turf, lost smiles in a slew of martyrs. Is this the type of life we're meant to be living with? Histories repeated, tragedies we're reliving, huh? These were the kinds of conversations that we used to have, but now that you're gone, I just speak to you in song, and I close my eyes. A knack for showing up soon as I close my eyelids. The world is black, but sure enough, your luminance is shining. They say no man's an island, and to me, you were a continent, constantly reminding me to elevate my consciousness. Now back when I was growing up, you told me to keep smiling, that no matter what the obstacle, nothing was impossible. Timeless wisdom in your silence, a language all its own. Find a place your children's children love and go on and call it home, and plant roots. Watch your family tree grow to bear fruits. Can't let that pride and ego set aside your ego. In the eyes of people, we share truth, clear through windows to your soul center. So find an equal whom you love being alone with to get you through that cold winter. This type of guidance you provided me was priceless. I can almost see you smiling while I write this at night. I just close my eyes. Sound beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah. Now I know grieving isn't easy, but the tears breed patience. Believing isn't easy, but the fears feed faith in that infinite uncertainty of certain situations. Recognize you're immortal. Your demise is but a portal to surprises unpredicted by the limits of a mind so finite that only in hindsight do we ever find what's right and what was wrong. And this is more than just a song. Sometimes your heart must skip a beat so you'll appreciate it more. And I keep calm and carry on. You wanna knock on heaven's door? I'm not so sure, brother, the line is very long. And since this very dawn, mankind has never been benevolent enough to get along. At least not on a global scale, so please begin at home. I pray we're not a total fail, but indeed the good die young. Ayo, deep inside I know we'll be united very soon. That's why I say, and what does that mean? Well, to the one we belong, and to the one we all return, for as sure as the sun will burn. You'll learn. Yeah. He said, to the one we belong, and to the one we all return, for as sure as the sun will burn. Now I have seen a face with 1,000 countenances, and a face that was but a single countenance as if held in a mold. I have seen a face whose sheen I had to look through to the ugliness beneath, and a face whose sheen I had to lift to see how beautiful it was. I have seen an old face much lined with nothing, and a smooth face in which all things were graven. I know faces, because I look through the fabric my own eye weaves, and behold the reality beneath. Gibran Khalil Gibran. Lick-Wilmerding High School, thank you all so much for having me. My name name is Omar Offendum. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Offendum, Offendum. Much love, y'all. Have a great day. Peace.